Okay, it's time to go deep. It's time to really figure out exactly why we're here, why we're homeschooling, and what is going to keep us connected to ourselves so that we are best able to drown out all that noise that we don't need to be listening to. When we go deep and really understand our why for homeschooling as individuals, that is what helps us to lead from alignment and really inspire our kids and ourselves. So, when I started thinking about this idea of connecting with our why being so important to homeschooling families, it reminded me of a book called Start with Why by Simon Sinek. And it's been on my shelf for years since I worked in nonprofit management. And it's actually about how great leaders inspire everyone to take action. But as I think about it in the context of homeschooling, I recognize that, we are all the leaders of our homeschools, aren't we? We're the leaders of our homeschools and we're leading our kids and our families. And what's so interesting about this concept of starting with why is that it's actually biological. As Simon Sinek says in his book, why speaks to the core of the brain, which is called the limbic brain. And that's the part of our brain that guides trust, emotions, and decision making. And so if you think about it, when you speak to yourself from your why, from something that's really important to you, it hits different, doesn't it? So, for example, I was thinking about two homeschooling parents who were both going to be teaching their kids about the human body. And so, in the first example, we have the parent who is trying frantically to figure out how to fit a science lesson in today or a science lesson in for 30 minutes 3 times a week. And so that parent says, oh, maybe the human body would be fun. Like, let's teach the kids about the human body. And then we have the other parent who says, our why is really about teaching our kids how to be healthy. It's about helping them to understand how their brains work and their bodies work so that they can make really good decisions for themselves going forward. And so I think it would be great for us to sit down and talk to the kids today about how their brains work. Um, it hits different, doesn't it? The person who is doing it because it's connected to what matters is going to be motivated in a different way than the person who is doing it just to check a box. And so, what I want to help you understand is that when we speak to ourselves and lead our families from our why, our choices naturally align with our values. So, families have lots of common reasons for choosing home education. I know that you have your reasons, just as I have mine. And I think that right now, what we want to do is just take a minute to articulate what those are. So, your reasons for choosing home education could be related to one of these. I'm just going to go over them quickly. We have individualized learning pace, interest led learning, stronger family relationships, flexibility in schedule, protection from negative school environments, respect for natural learning rhythms, values based education, freedom from standardized testing pressure, opportunities for real world learning, support for unique learning needs, preservation of curiosity, and agency and autonomy. If I were to go through this list myself and put check marks beside the ones that are connected to my why, I would actually put a check mark beside all of them. Um, for me and for our family, homeschooling is about really, it's about protecting our children's health and well-being, or being able to prioritize their health and well-being. And by that, I think, when I look at all of these things, I think about giving my kids the opportunity to see the world as they are, as they were born, without that school lens in front of everything, the way that so many of us have kind of grown up with. And so um, Having been through the school system myself and then having worked as a teacher, I know that the system can never prioritize health or well being. And so to me, that has always been kind of my motivational force or the driving force behind my decision to homeschool. And so, what I'd like you to do right now, real simple, just close your eyes and think deeply about why you are homeschooling. So, you can write down a few words. You can go back to the slide before this and write down some notes. You can write paragraphs or pages. It is totally up to you. Um, my goal with this workshop is to keep it as simple as possible for you. You do what works for you. There's no wrong way of doing this. All you want to do at this point is think not about how you're going to homeschool or how you've been homeschooling, but why you are here. And at this point, if your why is worded sort of in a negative way, like, I don't want my kids to be bullied, or I don't want my kids to take standardized tests, or something like that, see what you can do to kind of turn that around into a positive. So, I want my children to grow up in an environment where they feel safe. I want my children to be able to learn what is meaningful to them. You get the idea. So, just take a few minutes right now, put me on pause, and just write out whatever you're comfortable with. No pressure. No one's going to be checking it. You're not going to be graded. Just write what is meaningful to you. And I'll see you in a minute.